All right, folks, it is time for the behind-the-scenes weather model discussion here for Wednesday, October the 26th. How's it going? William Cole here in the Storm Studios. Hopefully your Wednesday is going well. Of course, this is the behind-the-scenes look at how we're putting together the forecast of the day. We're going to be showing you the raw data, right? This is not necessarily the made-for-TV graphics. This is going to be the raw data that we've been sifting through today. So if that's your thing, you will like this segment. Of course, we typically put this on our social media, so we're talking about Facebook, Instagram, even on our YouTube page. So if you're seeing it on one of those platforms, again, be sure to give us a like. We appreciate that. And then also, again, let us know where you're watching from, where you're viewing it from. And of course, if you have any questions, leave those below as well. We'll try and answer those for you. So we've got a lot to talk about today, though, right? We've got rain and storms on the way now, mainly for Friday, the way it looks. Some cooler temperatures, and then another possible storm system on down the road as well. So details on all of that coming up. But first of all, just looking at downtown Dallas, again, just from our live cam here, it really looks great. Again, generally sunny out there. I don't think there's going to be a lot of weather complaints from anybody as we go through the day, and even this evening. This evening looks fair. Temperatures will begin to ease off fairly quickly, again, with the brilliantly clear skies out there. So 70s, that's all we've been able to do today. In fact, take a look up in, Lamar County, up around Paris, Texas. It's only 69 up there. Meanwhile, you start getting out in our far western counties, out around Breckenridge, just a little bit milder there, 76. So far, we've only tapped a 70 officially at DFW. We'll see how much more if we're again able to go up a degree or two. Right now, it's about 340 here in the afternoon, so not impossible. We still add a degree or two to that number. So here's the winds around the area. And again, compared to yesterday, winds quite a bit lighter. We've got a return flow beginning to redevelop. So a southeasterly wind is beginning to redevelop, and that's been one of the keys to at least some milder temperatures as we've gone through the afternoon. Okay, so here's the overall setup. This is what we call the 500 millibar chart, right? This is kind of the meat and potatoes of the forecast, right? It gives you your overall setup across the nation. And what we're looking for here, we're looking for any dips, any storm troughs where we could have active weather or cooler weather, and then we're looking for ridges, which would be calmer weather and warmer weather, right? So what do we see here? Two things going on. So number one, we've got a big dip. You can see it there out to our northwest. That is our storm system that is inbound for very late Thursday into Friday. This will be a weather maker for us. I'll show you this coming up. Rain, some thunder possible with that. Our previous storm system from about 36 hours ago that brought us the rain and the storms and then the really gusty winds yesterday morning, you can see that dip. It's now beginning to pull away, right? So technically here in North Texas, we're kind of in this little zonal pattern. Things are moving from west to east, but it's a short-term pattern, right? Because we've got our next approaching storm system coming in from the northwest. And again, it's going to be arriving here fairly quickly. You can also see it on the water vapor imagery here as well. And again, you can actually see the area spin. I love to use the water vapor imagery because in real time, you can truly see what's going on. So look at this up here. You can see that little comma feature and see how it's almost like a little finger, right? It's just spinning around, and that's that area of low pressure, right? Counterclockwise spin, an area of low pressure. So we've got a deep low embedded, obviously, within that storm trough. And again, that storm system, looking at it, you can see the calm and everything looking pretty impressive, right? The storm system that's pulling away, even though that's an area of low pressure, you can kind of make out a counterclockwise area of spin, but again, you can tell it's nowhere near as impressive as our next approaching storm, right? This one looks good on the water vapor imagery, okay? From there, I also want to go and take a look just kind of locally here, right? And just see what we have going on out there. And I can tell you it's quiet today, right? But I still like to show the visible satellite. And again, you can see almost the entire Lone Star State. I mean, there is absolutely nothing going on, right? So North Texas, we would be right about here. Okay, obviously the coastal plains. We're talking about hill country down in here. We're talking about West Texas over in here. I mean, there's nothing going on. In fact, you have to look all the way up into parts of Kansas to find, and these are just high-level cirrus clouds, swept cloud cover up there. And you can actually, if you look very carefully on the Rockies, wow, this is actually pretty impressive. The white that's not moving there in the Colorado Rockies, that's early season snow. Really over the weekend and then earlier this week as well, they've been getting quite a bit of early season snow, but that's pretty impressive on the visible satellite imagery. I mean, you can very evidently see, again, that's not cloud cover up there, that's actually snow on the ground, on the mountaintops that we're seeing. So again, pretty impressive. Just a quick peek here at radar as well. And this is just the radar mosaic around the region. Yeah, I mean, obviously we know in Texas it's sunny, there's no precip, but even looking around the area, again, everything fairly quiet, right? So we've kind of established what's going on out there. And again, these are all charts that we look at constantly throughout the day, right? Monitoring for any type of changes. Real quickly, we're going to finish talking about our forecast, but I do want to highlight this only for the fact it's a little bit of national weather news. We do have a disturbance out. It's really just north of the Caribbean Sea now. Technically, it's in the deep South Pacific, the northern Atlantic, the southern portion of the northern Atlantic. We've been talking about the Pacific so much recently because that's where we've had the last few storms. We're over there, but now we're back in the Atlantic, and so this is a late season disturbance, and the National Hurricane Center throughout the afternoon has bumped up the probability to right around 50% over the next 5 days. Right now, the general path of this would still be out to sea. It doesn't appear as though it's any cause of concern. But while we're on this, let's go and look at the model data. And this is hot off the presses. This is the Euro, and we're going to look at the Atlantic Basin here, right? And so we're loading this up really quickly. And to give it just 1 second to load up. And as that happens, again, we'll actually take a look and see literally in real time what the modeling is doing because this did just come in moments ago. And in fact, we'll just back it up one. The current run may still literally be coming in. So this is where we're watching. Is right down in here, right? We're watching right down in here, and you can see a big storm trough here as well, kind of associated with that. That's, in fact, that's actually our old cold front. The cold front that actually came through here is actually is truly moving out to sea. And the interesting piece of this time of year, almost classic, you can get little spin-ups or little things that get caught within those cold fronts that do push off the coast. And again, sometimes that will even help their enhancement. So that will be something interesting to watch, to be honest with you. But let's just go and roll this over the next several days. And again, yeah, you can see it's just embedded. If you look at that little blue line that's running north to south, that is the front. And you can see that little piece of energy. And this is what I'm talking about. It's just, watch this little piece of energy right in here, and it's literally, and I didn't even look at this before I was mentioning that, it's literally just caught within that front, and you see it right there trying to spin up into something. But then here comes another trough you can see coming off the coast. It gets caught up in that, doesn't really do anything. So is it possible it becomes a depression? Not impossible. Is it possible maybe it becomes a tropical storm? Maybe. It doesn't look like it would have an opportunity to become a hurricane whatsoever. But essentially it's going to be interacting with that front and just lifting north through it. And this time of year, that's typically when you see that kind of stuff. So very interesting that actually played out like that. Okay, let's come back over to our weather. And I want to look at the convective outlook. Number one, we know today there's nothing really going on, right? Now, the Storm Prediction Center tomorrow does have parts of hill country all the way up through the big country, even parts of West Texas and our southern Texas panhandle highlighted in a marginal risk of severe weather. That's going to be for wind and for hail. As we look at the wind probabilities, 5%, hail probability 5%, so fairly minimal. As you get down closer to the Rio Grande Valley, there's a 2% tornado probability down there. So the overall severe probabilities, they're low. Right now, keep in mind with severe weather probabilities, compared to a normal probability, you never get a 100% probability of hail, right? You're typically dealing with a 5, a 15, maybe a 30, the lower end, right? But they become more significant. Even though they're low, they become more significant at that lower range, okay? But still, a 5% probability, it's on the lower side of things, right? So could we maybe have a couple of severe storms out there? It's not impossible. Now that outlook does come in to our far western counties. I'm not convinced here in North Texas, like in our actual coverage area, that we're going to have any type of severe weather late Thursday and a Friday. We may have some thunder around, right? Some thunderstorm activity, but I think to me this really looks like a good old-fashioned rain, and some of these rainfall totals, again, may be fairly generous around the area as well. So let's go and dive into that a little bit more. Let me go and show you really what I'm talking about. And let me give you this other zoom here too, right? I've got this tighter zoom. So what I'm going to do, same thing, this is still the European model, but I'm going to bring it back over to the Northern Hemisphere because I want to track in this next system that's coming in, our next weather maker, right? And we had it back up just one run here too. The newest data, the 12Z data, it's in for whatever reason, it's just not loading up on here quite yet. So again, this is what we're watching for. We're watching this storm system, this dip, right, that we were just mentioning. Again, the big comma, you could really see it spinning up there, right? We know it's a decent looking storm system on the water vapor imagery. And so as I roll this into motion, watch that dive down, right? It dives down, and look how much more impressive it gets as it dives down, and it's a red line center line track directly through North Texas, right? So here it is, moving right through North Texas, and it slows down significantly as it moves through North Texas. And I'm not saying that to, you know, hype this up or anything like that, but it significantly slows down. So the window of opportunity of lift and rain increases on Friday. Friday appears to be a fairly wet day. It may not rain every hour of the day, but again, Friday looks wet to damp. So any kind of plans on Friday, Friday night football, Friday night evening plans, maybe even Friday late night plans, keep in mind it looks wet. Okay, so go and plan ahead for that. But just as quickly as it slows down and almost stalls over North Texas, look at this as we get into Saturday morning. It shifts back into gear. And I mean, it just, look at that, it just accelerates. I mean, just out of here. I mean, just in a matter of 12 hours, boom, she's gone. And so again, it will continue to pull the active weather with it, again, off to the north and off to the east as it pulls away. But the good news for us is it literally slows down and almost stalls. And again, it expands our window, right, our opportunity of rain. And again, it's not like it's sitting over us giving us severe weather. It's not like it's torrential rain and we're going to be worried about flooding. I mean, it's just a good old-fashioned fall soaker, right? For the drought, it's like just something the doctor would order. I mean, literally, that's the best way to put it. So that's that system. Let me just go and fast forward here, and we'll go about 8 or 9 days on down the road. You can see our next big storm trough. This one's a little bit more of a long wave storm trough, just because it's broader, right? There's more involved in it, and it comes through. And it will also offer us another front. And again, like I mentioned, that's in about 8 or 9 days down the road. Let's look at air mass change. I always like to do this time of year because we're always looking for cold fronts. And again, we're looking for real cold fronts, right? We know we get the early season fall cold fronts where it gives us a break from the heat. We're kind of past that now, right? Again, a typical high this time of year is now down to 75. So we're definitely kind of in the milder part of the year for sure, but we're still looking for any cooler air. And this is just off the surface. It's just above the surface. It's at 850 millibars. So at this level, we're able to see true air mass change, right? We don't have any issues with any kind of debris, if you will, on the surface, right? Anything that would kind of collude or cloud what we're trying to look at. So as we roll this into motion, you can see that weather maker. Here it comes. You can see the greens and the blues. And it's not a crazy cool down, but we do turn cooler, and it persists at least through Saturday. We're watching that next weather maker. Still coming in from the Pacific Northwest. You see that, but it's got a little bit more of a fetch of Canadian air with it. Take a look at that. And the Canadian air comes down into parts of Nebraska, into parts of Kansas, even into parts of Oklahoma. And that next front, look at that, it makes it into North Texas, but it stalls out very close to Interstate 20. So we get a little taste of some cooler air again, but it doesn't really even make it all the way through our coverage area. But just to the north of us, again, just north of the Red River Valley, go up to Oklahoma City, especially go up to Wichita, go up to Kansas City, go up to Omaha, go up further north, and it truly chills down. That's some of the chilliest air of the season so far, but the bottom line is it does not really make it all the way into North Texas. So we've got another front on the way. We'll have another opportunity of rain and storms the way it looks with that, but I mean, it's a near miss, right? We could have actually had some chillier weather move in, but again, it stays just off to our north. And I say this all the time, we'll put actual numbers with that, right? We're just kind of using that as an illustration. When we're making the forecast here, I promise you, we don't just say the greens and the blues and we dial up some temperatures off of that. We'll put the actual numbers with that momentarily. But again, it just kind of illustrates, right, what we have going on. Okay, so let's talk about precip. I'm just going to run you through time. So here we go, and we'll look at the high-res data, but we'll still look at the global model here quickly as well, just for our upcoming event. And again, this is going to be for Thursday night, but mainly Friday now, the way it looks. The timing has slowed down just a little bit, but again, you can see, I mean, I've upped my probability to 90%. It's basically a 100% opportunity of, again, rain around the area. And again, it does appear as though it's mainly just a good old-fashioned rain. Again, you see the system just kind of lingering over us on Friday and early Saturday morning. If you're making weekend plans on Saturday, there it is. It just accelerates. It just hits the gas, and I mean, it just takes off and leaves, and then it leaves us basically drying out for the rest of the weekend with rapidly clearing skies. So that's great. I mean, literally, we get rain and we clear it out just in time for most of the weekend. Let me go a little bit faster here. We'll get to the end of this. And this again will take us out about 9 or 10 days as that next front comes through, and you can see it right there. It will also give us an opportunity of some rain and again some thunderstorm activity as well. So this isn't a super progressive pattern where we have rain chances every day, but again, we're talking about every 4 to 5 to 6 days we have some type of weather maker coming through, and again, it gives us some type of active weather opportunity, right? Some type of active weather opportunity, because none of these, other than what we're talking about for Friday, are completely locked in. Let me go and switch over to the high-res data, and forgive me, I've really got to, I mean, these things are so hard to see on here that I had to really lean in to look at that. And let me back this up once. So we'll look at the 48-hour. This is the high-res data. This is what we call the high-resolution rapid refresh model. A lot of folks just call it the HRR model for short, or the HRRR. And again, 4 times per day, we get an extended run of this where it goes out 48 hours. Typically, this only goes out about 18 hours. So we're going to look at the 48-hour run just for the fact that it encompasses most of what we need to see for Friday, right? So this is going to be a little more, you don't want to say more accurate, because we know what the Euro was already showing us, the signal, but what we were just looking at a moment ago with the European model, it's not a future radar product, right? It's not a radar simulation. It's just a 6-hour snapshot showing us where we could have rain, right? So now we're kind of switching over to more real-time analysis here, okay? And so as I roll this into motion, again, we know the rest of today it's quiet, tonight it's quiet. Here we go, we'll get into tomorrow, Thursday. And again, you can see some storms developing. Everything still appears to be slowing down. Storms still firing back in the Texas Panhandle. There they are in the big country. And this would be 6 a.m. Friday morning. Notice at 6 a.m. Friday morning, there's some other showery activity developing around our area. But the big change today compared to yesterday it was really showing Thursday night. Some of this was arriving in our far western counties, where really now it doesn't appear as though Thursday night, tomorrow night is really a big deal at all. It really appears as though it's going to fire up Friday, and it's just going to move across the area as we go through Friday afternoon. So there it is. Look at that wave. And again, it's not severe moving through. I mean, we've got yellows, we've got the oranges. I mean, it's just a good old-fashioned moderate rain. It's a good old-fashioned North Texas soaker. I mean, it's just what the doctor ordered. It's going to be moving slow. These aren't super crazy rain rates, right? So we're not overly concerned with flooding. Now, of course, we always have to watch for flash flooding, especially in our eastern counties where it's a little more terrainy. Again, if you start to get several hours of rain, I mean, in the back of our mind, we're always watching for those things, right? But there's no apparent concern, even with the rainfall rates we're expecting, of flooding, because again, it's just a good old-fashioned soaker coming through. Could be a little bit heavier though down on the coastal plains. Again, Houston, Corpus, places that are outside of our coverage area. Obviously, you see it's a bit of a different story down there. I'm going to take us out just a little bit further. So I'm going to switch from the high-res rapid refresh model, the HRR model, and I'm going to switch us over to the North American model. This is the 3-kilometer, also high-res data, but this will take us out 60 hours. This one, a lot of people like this one. I always use this with a grain of salt. I always use it with a grain of salt. It's probably going to look pretty identical to what we just looked at, but it's going to take us through the rest of Friday. But I always say I use this one a little more sparingly, right? But we need to use it because we need to finish Friday, right? The other one, we just had 48 hours. You saw it developing all across North Texas, but we weren't able to finish it off, okay? So here we go. This one looks pretty similar. There's Friday at 11, just before noon. Here we go through Friday. Again, same thing, man. It's just a good old-fashioned moderate rain. You can see the counterclockwise spin, right, of the system moving through. The low basically moving right down Interstate 20. I mean, very apparent. And there we go. That's 2 a.m. Saturday morning. That's where this one ends. So again, by sunrise Saturday morning, could be a few showers around. And then based off what we saw with the European model, again, as soon as it gets truly up into parts of the Arklatex, again, it hits the accelerator and it just takes off. And again, that's it. We'll have clearing skies and again, just kind of a cooler day on Saturday. So again, high temperature on Saturday, right around 60. So best case scenario, right? Not necessarily dealing with severe weather. Again, because we have that outlook from the Storm Prediction Center, of course, we're going to monitor it and make sure there's no changes. But right now, Friday just looks wet. It basically just looks like rain. Let me try and put some rainfall totals with this. And we'll see here on the, we'll just use the 3K NAM here. And like I said, and this may be just a little bit low. It almost looked a little bit light, to be honest with you, but let's just see. And then we'll also look at the euro here momentarily as well. And this is just projected rainfall totals. And that's through 60 hours. And again, as small as it is on your screen, those teeny tiny little black numbers, it's the same on mine, and it's even smaller here, so I really have to look down on it. But again, it looks like across the area about an inch to about an inch and a half. Okay, that's what this is advertising. Let me just look at the euro. And again, keep in mind, typically in this situation, we really do like to use high-res numbers, but I'm not a big fan of the 3K NAM, right? If the HRRR, if we were within range of the whole thing, we would use that for this. But let's just go look at the euro just to kind of get a second opinion. And the euro just a little more bullish, right? 1.5, there's a few twos. In our eastern counties, it's maybe advertising some 2 to 3s. That's probably a little bit on the higher side, right? Because it's not ultra high res data. So again, right now on average, 1 to maybe 2 inches. I think that's a pretty safe number. By tomorrow, once we have the HRRR model, the HRRR, the high resolution rapid refresh, again, pick your acronym. Once that's fully within range, we'll get a better snapshot of rainfall totals. They're not going to vary much, right? So 1 inch to 2 inches, not bad, right? I mean, that's basically what we need. At DFW, we're still about a 4-inch rainfall deficit for the year. Again, October being our second wettest month of the entire year. So climatologically speaking, if we need to pick up some rain, this needs to be the month that we need to try and do it, right? So we'll get something out of this, and then again, we've got another system on the way, even though we're basically ending the month, but still more precip is on the way. Okay, so let me go over to the numbers here, and let's see what they're advertising as far as highs and lows go. So for tomorrow, Thursday, 72. This is the euro. I believe I've got 74 for tomorrow. The euro right about 60 for Friday. Looks about right. Now I tell you, Friday, we may hover in the upper 50s, right? With it just raining all day, overnight lows in the mid 50s, the temperature may flatline. So we may truly be in the 50s on Friday. So keep that in mind. After that, we basically begin to pull out pretty quickly there. Saturday, 67, again, looks about right, clearing skies. Back in the 70s, sunny on Sunday. Sunday looks great, and then again, you can see the deeper there we get, the euro basically warming the temperatures back to and actually just above normal there towards the end. Now, this is the blend of models, and this is truly what I prefer, right? This takes into account the European data we just looked at, but it takes all the model data, combines it together, weights it, and also plugs in the high-res data. Now I can tell you that 59 on Friday might be a little accurate, right? It might be like 57, 58, 59, only for the fact if it rains all day, that temperature is just not going to move, right? 64 on Saturday, again, looks about right. It climbs us back into the mid 70s. I like that before we cool back down behind that next weather maker in about 8 or 9 days. But again, that next weather maker, remember the big push of cooler air stays well to the north, and we just kind of get a little taste the way it looks right now in North Texas. So it puts our temperatures there back into the lower 70s, just slightly below where we should be for this time of year. So a lot going on, as you guys can see. Again, the big story is it's going to be Friday, just an opportunity of rain. Of course, this time of year, climatologically speaking, this is our secondary severe weather season. And I just now noticed there on the screen, you couldn't even fully see this. Let me real quickly while I'm kind of closing this, that'll give you another opportunity to kind of look at that there as well. So otherwise, again, climatologically speaking, this is our secondary severe weather season, so that's why as these big systems come through, we're always watching for that opportunity of severe weather, just like the other night. Again, we had that opportunity of severe weather, didn't necessarily materialize, which of course is good, but again, on the flip side of things right now, it mainly just looks like rain. So again, thanks for watching our behind the scenes weather model discussion. Again, be sure to give us a like. Let us know where you're watching from. And then also, of course, if you have not downloaded our free mobile app, be sure to do that today. Again, you can watch our live channel on there. Of course, you can also watch our live channel on Roku, Apple, and also Amazon Fire TV. And again, you can also watch it on YouTube as well. But again, my updated 12-day live radar, all those kind of fun things, they're also on our mobile app. You can take us wherever you go. And of course, live breaking weather alerts as well. So otherwise, folks, again, thanks for joining us today. We'll do this all over again tomorrow. Then, of course, also I'll be on the air giving you your complete forecast there as well. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday afternoon.